Good evening, everybody. My name's Nicola and I'm one of the 3 founding directors of the Family Music Hub. Today I'll be behind the scenes working with Eleanor and Katie and Rosie, who will be leading you through the next 45 minutes. I do hope you're all warm and cosy, given how cold it is outside. As the webinar proceeds, please do post questions, comments in the chat function, which we're hoping that you can access. And we will address them, any questions that you might have towards the end. I'm really excited to hand over to Katie and Rosie. Enjoy.
Thanks so much, Nicola. Hi, everybody. Really nice to have you with us this evening. So we're the Family Music Hub, and we focus on music for young children birth to 5 and their families. We support group leaders across all kinds of different settings, organisations and locations who are using music in some way in their work with young children and their grown-ups. So Katie, over to you.
Yeah, so before we get started, it's great to be here. Before we get started, we'd love to know a little bit more about you. So we'd love it if you could share in the chat a new habit or practice that you're hoping to incorporate into your life in 2025. And we'll look forward to seeing some of those comments coming up. For me, I think I've got a few plans. I'm going to try and walk more every day. And I'm going to try and do something about my meals. I'm going to try and have more beans and pulses in my meals. That's my kind of plan for the new year. Rosie, have you got anything that you're thinking about for next year? This year,
yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, this year. First of all, I just feel like if you can hear some background noise, this is a very noisy time in my house, as I'm sure some of you will relate to children, having young children at home. So just apologies if you can hear lots of noise in the background. Yeah, kind of food related as well, food and water. I'm going to just try and drink more water. And I read somewhere about having a smoothie in the afternoon rather than like reaching for the crisps or chocolate that I sometimes do, like berries and stuff like that, giving lots of great energy. So I started today. I know a bit late. What is it? The 8th? What date is it? Yeah, the 8th. So a bit late, but I had a great smoothie this afternoon and I feel really energetic. So I think it's working. But yeah, please do share your new habits or practices if you can, and we'd love to know about them.
I think Rosie and Eleanor hopefully will be sending some comments through soon, but maybe Rosie, maybe Nicola or Eleanor can share with us their ideas as well from backstage. Let's see. I know somebody who's thinking about getting up earlier and getting outdoors in the sunshine every morning. I think that's a really important idea that they want to incorporate into their new habits for the coming year.
Yeah, okay, we've got to focus more on sleep hygiene. Yes. Ooh, okay, we've got some comments coming through now. Thanks, Amber. I would like to be more active with my creative journaling this year. That's wonderful. That's slightly more inspiring than drink more water. That's great.
And Nicola said setting a sleep alarm. Is that for going to sleep in the evening, not just for waking up, for going to sleep?
Oh, yes. Each evening. Brilliant. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Great. Well, maybe we'll have some more comments coming through as people join us. Yeah. So should we continue? And hopefully
sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So just to say that there's always a little bit of a delay from when you type a comment to when we see it. So apologies if it seems like we haven't seen your comment, but we'll try our best to get to most of them as they come. So in our last webinar, we introduced you to our 9 essential ingredients. And we particularly thought about number 6, which promotes a personal approach to family music making. And more specifically, the need for group leaders to know and to use names, both children's and the adults' names. And we thought about number 5 as well, which calls for a rich and varied repertoire that recognises and connects with the family's heritages and cultures.
Fantastic. And today we're going to stay with ingredient number 5. We live in such a culturally diverse country. And so we really encourage group leaders to connect as much as possible with their own cultural heritage, as well as the cultural heritages of their families. And alongside number 5, we're going to be looking at ingredient number 4, which calls for a flexible approach that responds to the needs, experiences, and interests of the families in your group. So there's lots to think about, really, when you're about connecting with families that you work with today.
Yeah, but as you know, this webinar is entitled The New Year, New Plan. So on a practical level, we really hope that it will help you to plan or refine your own kind of unique adult-led music sessions. And we also hope that it will help you reflect on the significance of a session structure for the children and for the adults in a group, whilst leaving some space for flexibility. And of course, we'll be sharing some new song ideas and rhymes too. So the first song we were going to introduce is called Bella Mama, and maybe some of you already know this one. This is a really lovely, bright, positive, warm song that can be used in a number of different ways. So I'm wishing that I had put a glass of water next to me, but here we go. I'll just sing it line by line. Perhaps we can sing along once you feel comfortable just where you are in your home. Maybe rope your families in too. So the first line is Bella Mama, yay. Should we try that? Bella Mama, yay. The next line is Bella Mama, yay. Your turn. Bella Mama, yay. Bella Mama, your turn. Bella Mama, yay. So the first and the last lines are the same. This one is a song originally from Cameroon in the Iroko language, and it means call mother. I've also heard a kind of Mother Earth interpretation of it as well. And it's a really lovely song for incorporating instruments or scarves. It's got a lot of kind of natural movement in it, or even stamps sometimes if you're singing in a circle, to stamp on the word belle every time. And also just to put people's names in as well. So you could sing Bella, Rosie, Bella, Katie. So yeah, lots of different ideas. I think we'll sing it one more time through if you want to join in. I might just get my shaker. If you have got a shaker with you, perhaps grab it, shake or sing along. And off we go. Bella Mama, yay. Bella Mama, yay. Bella Mama, yay. Nice. And it's just worth mentioning that we have got the recordings of the songs that we're covering tonight in the SoundCloud link, which you'll receive a bit later in the postcard that we'll send on. So that's Bella Mama.
Thanks so much, Rosie. So we're going to start working our way through our 3-step planning guide. And the first and very important step is to create a predictable and familiar structure for your sessions. So perhaps some of you are thinking that this doesn't quite fit with what we said earlier about flexibility. So ingredient number 4 calls for flexibility, but I'm saying we need structure. I think this will all become clear as we go through. Please bear with us and trust us, because there is a really important connection between the two. So it won't come as any surprise to hear that a clear structure is really helpful for children. And let's think at first about how structure benefits small children in everyday life. It'll be really helpful, again, if you'd like to add to the chat now how routines and structures help children and babies in everyday life. And I think Rosie might have something to share about that as well, because I know that's something that you're probably thinking about very often in your life, Rosie.
Yeah, I guess it's having a very young child in the home right now. I think probably having a structure in the day gives me a sense of control and security just in my routine, and knowing that I might get kind of a moment of a nap moment, perhaps at a certain time, just kind of helps me stay a little bit sane. So yeah, I think it's you know, the structure that I'm putting in place for my young child right now is probably giving me a little bit more a bit more regulation for my own kind of my own day and my own sort of emotional world.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we'd love to know more from you. We've got some comments coming through. Okay, great. Oh, so we've got some people just, oh, thank you, Emily, who likes Bella Mama. But yeah, thank you. So we've got just some more instructions about how to comment in the chat box. I think it isn't totally straightforward, we realise. So
I know that when my children were little, they found structure was really helpful, like knowing that we would do a certain thing on a Friday after school was something that kind of gave them a sense of security and made them feel comfortable. And I guess predictability is really helpful for little people. And I guess it enables them to then kind of make their own choices, knowing roughly what's going to be happening. So structure, I think, could be really helpful. So Rosie, you were thinking about, from your own point of view, which I think is really, really relevant for this this webinar today, but also thinking about children. Charlotte says routines help children anticipate what's coming next. Absolutely, really important. Any more thoughts on why structure is really good for young children? Just waiting for those comments to come in. I'm sure most people who are joining us today have some experience of this in one way or another, through their work or through their family life.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Amber. Yes, absolutely. I think in a world that is you know, ever changing and feels slightly insecure sometimes, I think the safety of routine for children is even more important. Yeah, wonderful. Oh, great. Thank you. Helps them learn. Yes. Brilliant. Well, maybe we can, as your comments come in, we can just start sharing some of the thoughts that we had, which I know are very similar. So we have predictability. Yeah. Feeling more in control, feeling more grounded, more comfortable. Yeah. Knowing what to expect and able to anticipate, giving a sense of order. Regulating behavior, feeling less overwhelmed, being able to regulate emotions and feeling less anxious. Brilliant. Supporting the development of executive functioning skills and better able to learn. That's great. Thank you. So just to say, if you want to explore this a little bit more, then do just search up the word routines in the Birth to 5 matters or development matters, which I'm sure that you are familiar with, to find more information to support these ideas. And of course, these are true for adults too. If you think about your habits that you want to implement this year, so many of them are about structure or kind of adding something to your week, or a good a healthy habit that you want to incorporate to your day, your week, or your month, and fitting them into your structure. And it seems quite logical, really, that we also benefit from this predictable structure, and that we especially for vulnerable or neurodiverse adults in the groups that you work with, this is going to be particularly important to them. Lovely. And yes, as I was saying, because what's good for your child is also good for parents and carers. It's going to positively impact them, when anything that's good for your child is also good for you as well. So really good to just keep that in mind.
So I think it's also worth thinking about how structure will help you as a group leader. Okay, and there's our lovely, we've got some lovely illustrations now of group leaders that have been done beautifully for us. And maybe you'll recognize yourself or somebody a bit like you in one of those pictures. So it's worth thinking about how the structure helps our group leaders. For me, structure is very, very important. It helps me plan my repertoire for the term, and it helps me structure each session that I run. But I think more importantly than that, let me move the slides on. I think it gives me that scaffolding, but more importantly, it's a safety net within which we can be flexible and responsive. So I can, if I know what I'm doing, if I've got a structure, I've got room to change it and alter things and respond to things, but I've got that safety net of the structure to help me fall back on as the group moves forward. It provides me a framework which helps me to pace what I'm doing during the session, so I can keep to time because I've got that structure and I won't run over. And I think that's kind of really helpful as well. So structure is really great for the children. It's really good for the adults too, but it's also good for you to have that structure to support you in your work. Back to you, Rosie.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So I think we're going to share another song now. But yeah, first I just want to acknowledge this great comment from Rachel. Thank you. Who created a structure for her 3-year-old. Yeah, and I think just allowing that, sometimes it's a visual, isn't it? And just kind of understanding what happens where in the week and learning the days of the week as well. So that's kind of all coming together in that. That's brilliant. Thank you. I'm going to teach another song now. It's a very simple song called Can You Make a Sound Like This? And we basically make a sound either vocally or with an instrument or a drum, and then we leave space between each line to see what happens, to see whether there's a response or whether children copy or adults copy. So it goes a bit like this. Can you make a sound like this? Beep, 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 beep. Can you make a sound like this? Nino, Nino, Nino. Can you make a sound like this? Wee! Can you make a sound like this? Nice. Should we do it one more time? I might do it with a shaker this time, so I might just try a different approach. Can you make a sound like this? 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 And then I might actually change this one up, and the next time round I'll say, I might kind of, point at individual children and see what they might come up with. I think it's really hard to leave space and just wait, isn't it, for sounds? But it's really nice to do, to just really just wait and give it lots and lots of space between each line to see what sounds we can hear. So lovely. That's Can You Make a Sound Like This? And you will be getting the SoundCloud links for these ones if you want to use them afterwards. Back to you, Katie.
Thank you. So hopefully you have some paper, a pencil and some pens handy for the next part of our webinar. It's time for us to talk you through our 3-step plan. So as already mentioned, we start by creating a structure. So that's step 1. And then once that's in place, we create a master sheet of repertoire for the coming block of sessions. That could be a term, or it could be just 4 weeks or something like that. And then from that will be step 2. And from that list, we then select repertoire for any given session that we're doing. That's step 3. I've certainly found that if step 1 is really secure and established, the structure is really well established, then steps 2 and step 3 are not very tricky at all. So I think it's worth spending some time on thinking about how you actually settle on a structure that works for you and for your families. So there's our 3 steps. 1, creating a structure. 2, selecting a block of songs that you can pick from for this block of sessions. And 3 is to create individual sessions. So back to you, Rosie.
Thank you. So grab your pen and paper, and we're going to start with a line. So it could be straight or wiggly. And we're going to start with some kind of welcome or hello song and end with some kind of goodbye and end song. So I'll just give you a minute to get your paper out or get your pens ready. And why don't you just create something similar to what you can see on the screen? So a beginning song, a wiggly line or a straight line, I don't mind, and an end song or an end kind of moment. So what we're going to do now is along the line, we're going to choose various categories. So before we can pop those in, we need to just decide on which categories you and your families want to incorporate into the session. So it would be really great if you could share your ideas for song and rhyme categories. So, for example, we have lullabies, we have name songs. You might know some of those from our last webinar. We have shaker songs, we have lycra songs, birthday songs. Yeah, can I see any peekaboo songs? So could you incorporate some of those ideas and some of your ideas for kind of categories of songs and activities and rhymes that you might incorporate? So if you could pop those in the chat, that would be really great. Animal songs, fantastic. Thanks, Charlotte.
Jenny said action songs. That's a good idea. So we could put that in there. I know one group locally to me, they always have a song with bubbles. That's important to them. Any more thoughts? Sensory activity, nice.
Stories, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, we wondered whether that would be something that came up today. Stories, for sure. Yeah. Thank you, Ellen. Anyone else? Okay, great. Thank you, Amber. Yeah, movement songs and kind of lap songs. Yeah, that's definitely a category that we've had before. So yeah, lap songs, wonderful. Thank you. Actions, yeah, that's so action and movement is coming up a lot, which is great. Wonderful. Keep them coming and we'll continue. Drum songs, brilliant. And sometimes this will depend, won't it, on kind of the resources that you use. If you've got a big gathering drum, then that is likely to become a category for you. Or a set of, little drums, then that is likely to be something that you count as one of your categories. So brilliant. So from all of these great ideas, you decide what you want to include in your structure. You can't do all of these categories, but you choose a combination that feels right for you and your families, and that is unique to you and your families. And obviously time will be a factor. Is it a 15-minute sing-song or is it a 45-minute session? And that will determine kind of how many categories you incorporate. You might kind of want to think about each song or activity lasting 2 or 3 minutes, but this is a really rough guide. And it's something that you'll just have to try and test yourself. Brilliant. We've got cultural songs that children listen to at home regularly. Fantastic. And is that will that incorporate recorded music that families bring in, or kind of singing and learning songs from home? Brilliant. That's great. So should we move on to see an example of this coming together? This is an example from Katie's group.
Thanks. So so for me, I've kind of chosen my different categories. And and then I'm going to place them on the wiggly line, I guess. So my non-negotiables would be that the lullaby is really near the goodbye song, kind of the second to last thing in the class, because it's a very nice, for my children, it feels like a really nice experience for them to calm down and settle down before we sing goodbye. We get up and we move quite near the beginning. We have a dance quite near the beginning, and that seems to work for my families. And we always sing happy birthday about halfway through. That's just how we do it. This is my group. I don't have time to do a stick song and a shaker song every single week. So I have a slot that's an instrument slot, and some weeks I do sticks, some weeks I do shakers. I tend to alternate them, but in the back of my mind, I know that if it's a really windy day, the sticks tend to not work. It tends to just not quite work for my families. Shakers are a much calmer thing to have on a windy day, so I kind of keep an eye on the weather before I decide. They really love the lycra. They wouldn't forgive me if we didn't have a lycra moment in the class. And yeah, we have a name song about halfway through as well, because some of my families, I mean, it's typical of family life, isn't it? It's difficult to get out the door on time. Some families arrive a little bit late and they haven't been part of the hello song, so nobody's heard their name, nobody's connected with them with their name. So we have a name song, almost halfway through, which is just another way of kind of helping people feel comfortable. I pop everything else in roughly where it goes. We always do Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. It's part of the lullaby goodbye song. A lycra song, thanks Jenny has asked. Jenny said, what's a lycra song? It can be any song that or rhyme actually, that you use with a piece of lycra, stretchy lycra fabric. So for me, it would be Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. And we bounce teddies and bounce them up and down. Or it could be a peekaboo song where the children hide under the lycra and we lift it up and down. But for everybody, they'll choose different things that are their lycra songs. But what it means is that slot means that we get the lycra out and we enjoy an activity with the lycra. We always do a peekaboo with the scarves as well. Examples of name songs. Actually, Beth, thank you. Beth's asked, can we give some examples of name songs? In our webinar that we did in December, we introduced a few. So one of them was called the Jacket Song. Another one was Good Morning Train, which is to the tune of She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain. It could be a hello song. It could be one of the songs that people use for hello. So something that includes names. Yep. So I filled up all the gaps there, and hopefully you'll see that's my structure that works for my families. That particular session, I would say, would be about 30 minutes long. I'm hoping that it'll be 30 minutes long, but I probably would need to do it through with the families and test it, and I might need to add something in at the last minute or drop it quickly if I'm a bit nervous. But having a rough plan is really good. So you can catch up with watching the first webinar we did. It's on our YouTube channel, so that's something you'll be able to see. I'm going to hand back to Rosie now.
Thank you. Great. So we're going to think about step 2, which is choosing the actual repertoire and the activities that come within these categories. So I think the considerations when you're thinking about repertoire connect to those 2 essential ingredients that we talked about at the beginning as well, which is why they're kind of under the magnifying glasses there. So I think when we're thinking about repertoire and activities, we think that it needs to change, fairly frequently. But I think we're really keen to say that it doesn't need to change as much as we think, probably. We think that monthly, termly, we can make kind of repertoire blocks that last for a whole term, perhaps. And within that, all of those ideas, we can make some changes, small changes, perhaps every week or so. But we're kind of basically working from one block of repertoire, and we're not changing it loads within a term or a month, and that will be really individual to you. We believe that a rich and varied repertoire is really important, which is why that we always introduce songs and new songs and rhymes to use. it should be flexible. So it should allow for changes, like Katie was saying about wind. You know, wind can be quite unsettling, and just being flexible enough to make those changes as and when needed. Repetition, as I say, is really important, but allowing for a bit of variation. Let's not forget the seasonal things that come up, and just making sure that we've accounted for those when we're creating our blocks of repertoire, songs and activities. Some of you might really love to theme your sessions. You might not. So either way is great. And incorporating new songs into those blocks, really challenging yourself to incorporate learn new songs and rhymes, as well as giving the families some of the old favourites that we know that they really enjoy. So in order to create this master sheet that we've been talking about, we need to start with those categories that you've chosen in step 1. So hopefully you might have a little list of the categories now that are important to you. And so what we've got here is we've just created a table from these categories. And with lining the categories up on the left, we're then just going to write in, you know, the 2, 3, probably that's enough for each category, 2 or 3 songs and rhymes that can be our flexibility. So we know that we're following this kind of, you know, this structure with the categories down the left, but within that we've got 2 or 3 different songs or rhymes to choose from, and that list can really be rich and varied. It can account for the seasons. It can allow for some flexibility within those choices that you make. So this is your master sheet, and then from this sheet we're going to do step 3. So we've included, as you can probably see on the screen, we've included the songs and rhymes from today and from our first webinar. So do catch up with that if you haven't watched it already. Have a little look at the scarf section on this plan, because we're going to share these selections now. Pass it.
Thank you. So this one is called We Fly in the Sky Very High. It's a rhyme, and it's a great one for scarves. So here's a little demonstration. You wave your scarf up high, low, you move it quickly and slowly, and then you throw it. We fly in the sky very high. We fly in the sky very low. We fly in the sky very fast. We fly in the sky very slow. High, low, fast, slow. Ready, steady, throw. And when we first did that, we used to do ready, steady, blow. Ready, steady, blow. But COVID did away with that one. We stopped doing that in lockdown, and we haven't started it again yet. It's a throw. Over to you, Rosie, for the next one.
Great, thank you. So this next song is called Simama Ka. And it's a song from Tanzania. It's in Swahili, and it may be familiar to some of you already. It's a really popular one with all the groups that I've taught it in. It's just become such a favourite. I'm going to teach it with a scarf today because it's really effective, really fun. You can use scarves standing up and jumping around if you've got slightly older children, kind of on the 2, 3, 4 spectrum, or if you've got younger babies, you can kind of lay them down in front and use the scarf so that they can kind of see that movement right in front of them. So it's it goes like this, and I've got the interpretation of the words is on the screen now. So I'll just teach it with the scarf and the actions and the movement, and you can see how they relate to the translation of the words. It goes like this. Simama ka, simama ka, ruka, 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 simama ka. Should we try that together? Simama ka, simama ka, ruka, 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 simama ka. So the way that I'm moving the scarf sort of relates to the standing up and sitting down and jump, jump, jump. The next little verse is about walking, tembeya, tembeya. So I'm just kind of walking my scarf around, really. Tembeya, 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 Ruka, 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 simamaka. Lovely. So that's simamaka, and the recording for that is on the SoundCloud link as well. So scarves are great for peekaboos as well. They're really fun for just exploring how peekaboos can be said in different languages, which is just going to give a very, very short example of a little micro rhyme, which is a term that we adopted from micro song, micro rhyme, from a really fab organization called Magic Acorns. But basically it's just kind of a little, it's not really a song, it's not even a rhyme, it's just a very simple few words. So I would say peekaboo, and then I might try and gather a different way of saying peekaboo from my group if there were other languages represented within the group. A really great example, my favorite one, was I think in Gujarati it's kukariku. So then we might do kukariku and then finish with I see you. So that's a really nice, really simple idea. Peekaboo, add in a different way of saying peekaboo in a different language, and then finish with I see you. Brilliant. Over to Katie.
Thanks, Rosie. I love that idea. I'm going to definitely do that in my groups. So on to step 3. If you've got steps 1 and step 2 right, step 3 is just easy. You choose 1 or sometimes 2 activities per category and you just list them as per your structure in a table. And then you can add as many or as few notes as you need. Now, if you handwrite that plan, you're more likely to remember it. If you remember from our webinar 1, research does tell us that the process of handwriting, physically writing something, helps us to remember. And if you know your structure really well, which I do, I know that structure of how I do things, then you can make in the moment changes to your plan, and you can respond to the needs and the requests of your families. So let me talk you through a little bit about this particular plan, and hopefully it'll help a little bit with the idea of the Lycra song. So what I've done here is I've written my list down. I don't need to tell myself anything about Wind the Bobbin Up. I know that really well. Similarly with Happy Birthday, but I have put some other reminders in as well, that I'm going to do the hello song at the beginning twice because everybody's new and they don't know each other's names. The Lycra, just to go back on that, we're going to do zoom, zoom, zoom for that. What we do, it's a bit like a parachute. We all sit round a circle of Lycra, and the stretchiness of it is just a little bit, for me, preferable to a parachute. And we would all sit round, we'd hold it and we would bounce something, or we would lift it up and down. So it's a really lovely community activity, and it only works if the adults join in. So it's a great way of really engaging all those adults into your group. I've written down a few different bits and bobs. I've written down that I'm going to do Rosie's idea for the peekaboo, and I've got 2 people in my class who speak who have English as a second language, so I need to remember to ask them at that point how to say peekaboo in their particular language. So I've just made notes that I need and nothing more really, because I want to remember this. I don't really want that to be something I have to keep referring to. So over to you, Rosie.
Thank you. So when you're writing your plans, we think they should be individual to you. They should be predictable. You know, we're not trying to kind of create lots and lots of challenges so that it's kind of just overwhelming in the moment. And we want kind of a sense of predictability that is good for everybody. They should be balanced, varied, adaptable, and achievable. So that seems like a lot, but should we just take each one individually? So with individuality, I think each song or each activity can be done in its own way. So we both use Bella Mama, for example, that I taught earlier, but I use the Bella Mama as a very active kind of instrument song or a movement song. But for Katie, she uses it as a lullaby because it can be sung in a really different way. Yeah, so that's just an example of how, you know, a plan should be individual, but that's really personal to you. So yeah, go for it, Katie. Sorry.
Predictable and adaptable. We can take those together actually, because my children kind of know the order of things. They know that we're going to get some instruments out, but I will adapt that according to what they might need that day, or what the weather's doing, or something like that. So you can be predictable and adaptable, because the predictable you get through your structure, and the adaptable you get through having a list of songs to choose from. So yeah, over to you, Rosie.
And then with balance and having a varied session, I think we can take those together as well. Balance is something that you'll probably work out in your structure as you do it. So deciding how many dances, where the energy is in the session, where you need to kind of put something that's calming, or the bubbles or the lycra, just to kind of get some of that big movement in. So I think that's definitely something that as you kind of work through your plans will become clear, kind of where you should place the different categories. And then having a varied plan. I think once you've done step 3, it's really worth reviewing. And you've kind of done it a couple of times, just to ask yourself the question, is there enough variation in the activities? Have you included a rich and diverse repertoire? Can you challenge yourself to perhaps introduce, a couple of new ideas that you didn't, that you perhaps have learned that are new? But yeah, so I think that covers it, apart from achievable.
Yeah, so finally, achievable. I mean, I think the trick is to only introduce one new thing that, new to you each week. Trying to remember 3 or 4 new songs in one group is just too tricky. You might have too many resources, because you've got to factor in the tidying up time and the handing out time. Have you chosen too many songs? Perhaps it's easier and better for the children to have fewer songs with more repeats. So it's trying to kind of figure it out and get it to a point where you can do it without having to refer to your notes too much. I'm going to sing you one more song. This is a song I learned in America, and it's a lovely song which enables you to respond to your family. So it's called We're Going to Kentucky. And the lyrics will come up on the screen in a minute. And it's a nice one for responding to the families. I use it for shakers, and we actually walk around, we dance as we walk around with our shakers. We're going to Kentucky, we're going to the fair, to see the senorita with flowers in her hair. Then we stop still and we shake our shakers. Shake it, baby, shake it. Shake it all you can. Shake it like a milkshake and put it in the can. And then we roll our shakers like this, and we go down to the bottom and we go up to the top. Oh, rumba to the bottom, rumba to the top, rumba round and round and round until you holler stop. The children love that stop. And of course, we change it up. We go to the zoo sometimes, and I make up new rhymes to adapt to those children if they like going to the beach or the zoo or the playground. There's lots of things you can do with that one. It's a great one to connect with those families.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us today. If you have questions for us, please do post them now if you can in the comments. We really hope it's been a useful session for you. We are sending you a virtual postcard with some of the links and some of the main ideas that we've covered in the session. And it will be available to watch as well on our YouTube channel at the end. So yes, and the SoundCloud link, I know I've mentioned it a few times, so do check that out because it's free to you. It's a private link, but yeah, please do check out the recordings that are there for you to refer to. So please do post any questions now, and we'll try and get to them just in the last minute or so. But we've got one more webinar coming up at the end of the month, which is about nurturing relationships. It's going to be really interesting, so we'd love to see you then. And we have a survey that we're still trying to gather some responses about the work that's happening on the ground. Family workers, librarians, volunteers, toddler group leaders. We want to hear from anyone that is making music with families. So please do fill that in if you haven't already. That would be fantastic. Thank you. This is some details of our CPD offer, which is across 3 full days. So if you are working with an organisation that might be interested in that CPD offer, then please do get in touch with us and we can let you know more about that. And there's also more information on our website, which is coming up at the bottom of the screen. So yeah, if there's no questions, then I think that wraps up our webinar for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thanks so much, everybody. We look forward to seeing you again at the end of January. And it's goodbye from both of us, but also from Nicola and Eleanor, who've been super busy behind the scenes. We're really grateful for all the work they've been doing as well. And we look forward to seeing you at the end of January. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everybody.